They say love don't always knock loud. Sometimes it slips in quiet and stays longer than you meant it to. Hey, I'm Alex Lemon. These stories, they're about that kind of love. The kind that leaves a mark even after the door's closed. Love that's tender, tangled, and true. A little messy, a little magic. Some of it heals, some of it haunts. But all of it, real. So settle in and let your heart listen. The Weight of Love and Stone. Chapter 1. The Cry Behind the Church. Sweeping dusk pressed against Willow Shade, Mississippi, when Naomi Washington slammed the broom against the stone steps, sparks of red dust dancing in the humid air. "Almost done," she muttered, though her arms ached from 3 shifts at the diner and this extra duty at New Olive Baptist. She tasted rain in the wind, thick, metallic, like a promise. A sudden tremor of sound slipped between the oak trunks behind the sanctuary. Not quite a sob, not quite an animal's moan. Naomi froze. The sweeping stopped. The cicadas kept sawing their endless saw, and somewhere a porch screen banged against its frame. She set the broom aside and stepped off the last stair, gravel crunching beneath worn sneakers. "Who's there?" Her voice cracked, sharper than she meant. No answer, only the hush of twilight settling over the churchyard graves, their marble faces catching the first glimmer of street lamp glow. Naomi's pulse fluttered, part fear, part curiosity, part something lonelier. The half-remembered ache of being young and abandoned and needing a stranger's kindness. She slipped around the brick corner, shoes skidding on stray pine needles. Branches brushed her shoulder like hands trying to hold her back. Then she saw the child. A little black girl, maybe 7, knelt in the weeds by the trash bins. Thick braids clung to her damp cheeks. A ribbon hung loose like a wilted blossom. Her bare feet were scratched, toes gripping the dirt. She hugged a rust-stained metal lunchbox to her chest and swallowed sobs so fiercely her whole body shook. Naomi knelt, heart thundering. "Hey, sweetheart, are you hurt?" The girl flinched but didn't run. Large eyes, dark, liquid, haunted, fixed on Naomi's face. A torrent of questions swirled in Naomi's mind. Where were this child's parents? Why here? Why now? But she softened her voice. "My name's Naomi. I'm not going to harm you." The girl pushed the lunchbox forward with trembling hands. "He told me to find someone who wouldn't walk away." Naomi's breath caught. "Who told you?" "He did." The child glanced at the steeple overhead as if expecting thunder. "The man in the long coat, he said if I gave this to the wrong heart, it would burn them." Naomi's skin prickled. She lifted the lid slowly. Inside lay a smooth river stone the color of midnight, yet faintly luminous, as though a candle lived under its surface. Beneath it, a folded scrap of yellow paper. She pulled the note free, but before she could unfold it, footsteps crunched on gravel behind her. "Naomi, you still cleaning out here?" Elijah Carter's baritone drifted around the corner, casual yet edged with the impatience Naomi recognized from childhood arguments over who got the last biscuit. He emerged from the shadows, grease-stained coveralls slung over broad shoulders, sweat beading on his forehead from the muggy evening. His eyes narrowed when he spotted the girl and the open box. "What's going on?" Naomi shielded the child instinctively. The tension between them crackled. Old friendship, almost love, years of missed chances. Elijah had once promised to leave this town with her. Instead, he'd opened a garage and buried himself beneath broken engines and bigger debts. "A little girl needs help," Naomi said, meeting his gaze. "That's all." Elijah's gaze fell to the stone, and something flickered. Ambition, greed, desperation she'd seen before when his bank threatened foreclosure. That's not all. That looks like money if you know the right buyer. It's not for sale. Naomi closed the lid. The warmth of the stone seemed to seep through the metal, steady as a heartbeat. She's coming with me. Lightning spidered across the low clouds, turning the world a ghostly lavender. The child clutched Naomi's arm, trust trembling in her grip. Elijah stepped closer. Rain breath carried motor oil and cedar off his skin, familiar and dangerously comforting. "You don't even know that kid," he said softly, persuasive like Sunday morning blues. "You barely keep your own lights on. Let social services handle her and let me figure out what that rock really is. We could both use a break." Naomi felt the storm rising inside her, the fight between longing for partnership and the stubborn kindness that had kept her poor but upright. She slipped the lunchbox under her arm and lifted the girl into a protective embrace. The child's small hands locked around Naomi's neck, heartbeat fluttering like a captured bird. "I'm not selling mercy tonight," Naomi whispered. "Find your fortune somewhere else." Thunder rolled, close and intimate, as if the heavens approved or warned. Elijah's eyes hardened. "Don't say I didn't try to help." He turned and stalked toward the parking lot, his silhouette swallowed by the flashing sky. Naomi exhaled shakily, pressing the girl's head against her shoulder. The church's stained glass windows glowed with sudden lightning, saints and angels flickering like watchful witnesses. Rain began, soft at first, then drumming. Naomi hurried across the yard toward her battered sedan, air thick with petrichor and promise. Behind them, the steeple bell tolled a single note, without any hand to pull its rope. Naomi looked back once. The church loomed, dark and waiting, as if it understood that something unseen had just chosen sides, and that tonight's small act of kindness would echo far beyond Willow Shade's sleepy streets. Chapter 2. The Box That Shouldn't Be Opened. Rain stitched silver lines across Willow Shade, as Naomi's sedan rolled past shuttered storefronts and sleeping magnolias. Street lamps blurred behind the windshield. Muted gospel hummed from the dash, but her pulse drummed louder. Lulu dozed in the passenger seat, head tipped against the window, braids still damp. The rusted lunchbox sat in Naomi's lap like a silent heartbeat. She turned onto Larkspur Lane, a row of shotgun houses painted in tired pastels. Inside her own, the air smelled of cedar and frying oil left from yesterday's cornbread. Naomi locked the door, drew the curtains, and laid Lulu on the pull-out sofa, covering her with the quilt her mother once stitched from choir dresses. For a moment, she studied the child's face, softer now, but shadowed by whatever night she carried inside. Naomi brushed a thumb across Lulu's brow. The girl sighed, curling deeper into the quilt, as if she trusted this stranger's hands. Lightning flickered through the blinds. Naomi sat at the kitchen table beneath a weak bulb, the lunchbox before her. Droplets slid along its dented sides. She hesitated, remembering Elijah's hungry gaze, the warning in Lulu's trembling voice, but curiosity crept in like a draft. She released the latch. The lid groaned. The stone waited, black as river midnight, faintly pulsing with inner light. Naomi's fingertips tingled when they hovered above it, the same way gospel chords sometimes raised gooseflesh along her arms. She unfolded the yellowed note beneath. Each letter leaned sideways, as though written on a shaking train. "If you hold this stone, do not lie, do not sell, do not speak its secret aloud. 7 days will test your heart, break faith, and the stone will break more than silence." Her throat tightened. 7 days, a test. Memories flooded, her father's empty promises, the boyfriend who vanished after promising Chicago dreams, Elijah's vow to stand by her that wilted into debt and excuses. Promises, always promises. And here lay another, breathing in her hands. She pressed the lid shut and slid the box into the high cupboard above the stove, far from curious eyes. The bulb flickered, and a floorboard sighed. Naomi whispered a prayer, half plea, half warning to any watching spirit, then dragged herself to her room. Sometime past 3, thunder jarred her awake. The house seemed to inhale. She crept down the hallway. The air tasted of iron and rain. Lulu stood at the threshold of the kitchen, eyes wide and glossy, staring at the cupboard. Naomi knelt beside her. "Dream keeping you up, baby?" Lulu shook her head. "It's singing." "What is?" "The stone. It misses the person it belongs to." A chill feathered down Naomi's spine. "Who does it belong to?" Lulu's voice thinned. "Somebody who keeps promises." Before Naomi could ask more, the porch steps groaned outside, followed by a soft knock on the door. She tucked Lulu behind her and opened it an inch. Elijah's silhouette loomed, drenched, eyes shining with something fever-bright. "I couldn't sleep," he said, rainwater trailing down his jaw. "I came to apologize." Naomi smelled bourbon beneath the storm. "Middle of the night, Eli?" He glanced past her. "I need to see that rock." His voice cracked between desperation and desire. "Just 1 minute, Nye. Let me hold it." "No." She started to close the door. Elijah pressed a hand against the frame, rainwater pooling at their feet. For a heartbeat, she saw the boy who once skipped stones with her across Cypress Creek, swearing his love would never sink. But greed lit his eyes now, hollowing out the warmth she remembered. "The stone's dangerous," she whispered. "It's part of something holy or cursed." "I'm drowning in bills," he pleaded. "Let me stop sinking." His breath trembled. "Think how many folks we could help if we sold it right." Naomi felt the house listening. From the hallway, Lulu watched, brown eyes reflecting lightning like shards of star. Naomi's chest ached with old yearning. Part of her wanted to save Elijah, to believe love could polish tarnished souls. But the stone's warning echoed louder. Break faith, and something breaks you. She stepped back. "Go home, Eli. Dry off. Pray, if you still remember how." Pain flashed across his face, quickly masked by anger. "You always choose ghosts over living people." He dropped his hand, turned into the storm, and disappeared down the street. Naomi closed the door, palms shaking. Lulu slipped her small hand into hers. "He was lying," Lulu said softly. Naomi swallowed. "I know. He'll come back. I figured." She squeezed the child's hand. "So we keep faith." Rain hammered the roof, but inside a hush settled, fragile, uncertain, hovering between miracle and ruin. Naomi led Lulu to the sofa, lay beside her, and listened to the storm argue with the night, wondering who would still be standing when the 7th dawn arrived. Chapter 3. The Temptation of Elijah. Morning dragged a bruised sky over Willow Shade. Puddles mirrored tangled power lines as Elijah Carter unlocked the metal door of Carter's Auto and Tire, the bell above it jangling like a cheap conscience. Inside, the smell of rubber and gasoline mixed with humidity thick enough to chew. Yet something colder clung to him, the memory of Naomi's refusal and the flicker of fear in Lulu's eyes. His heart throbbed with equal parts shame and desire. Every beat repeated the same word: stone. He tossed his jacket onto a stool and yanked the chain on a dusty fan. Air swirled through yellow invoices tacked to the wall, late notices from the power company, final warnings from the bank. Each page felt like a finger tightening around his throat. He tried focusing on a Buick sputtering near the bay door, but the metallic chime of his phone shattered any notion of work. "Eli, got your message," a voice drawled. Jerome Crowder, a jeweler from Jackson known for buying questionable gold. "You said you located a live miracle. That still true?" Elijah glanced at the overdue bills. "I'm close," he answered. "Need a price first." "If it's what you hinted, I can wire 10 grand by sundown, another 20 on delivery." 30,000. Enough to clear the mortgage, restart the garage, maybe even buy Naomi that neon cupcake sign she once sketched on diner napkins, back when dreams felt reachable. He swallowed. "I'll call when I have it." He hung up, but his fingers tingled, as if the phone's plastic retained Jerome's promise. 30,000 for 1 stone. Only a coward would walk away. He pictured Naomi's house, shabby yet neat, curtains fluttering like soft warnings. He remembered her laugh the summer they slow-danced behind the 4th of July parade, fireflies settling in her hair like sparks from heaven. Back then she believed he could be a better man. Would selling the stone destroy what still flickered between them, or rescue it? He paced the grease-streaked floor, past license plates nailed like trophies, past the Polaroid of 16-year-old Naomi holding his first-place drag race medal, grin wide as the Yazoo River. He stopped at the workbench, heart ricocheting. Under a pile of ragged towels lay an old lock-picking kit he'd confiscated from a cousin who chose crime over crankshafts. Elijah lifted it, palms sweating. The tools whispered temptation sharper than any sermon's warning. A drop of rain tapped the tin roof, then another. Thunder rolled in lazy circles. The dim shop lights flickered, and for an instant he thought he saw a reflection in the oily window, his own face pairing with a darker silhouette, eyes glowing ember red. He blinked, the shadow vanished. Yet dread lingered, cold as river water. He rubbed his chest where faith once lived. At lunch break he drove across town, windshield wipers thrashing. Naomi's house came into view, pastel paint peeling, jasmine vines climbing the porch rail. Children's chalk lines littered the street, half washed by rain. Hopscotch squares, crooked hearts. He parked 2 houses down, engine idling, watching. A curtain shifted, Lulu's small face, solemn, observant. Elijah's pulse hammered. He slid lower, ashamed, like a thief spying on saints. The front door opened. Naomi stepped out, umbrella tilted, heading toward her sedan with a sack of groceries. She paused, sensing something, and looked out over the street. Even from the car, Elijah felt the pull, her gaze as tender as it was piercing. He remembered the taste of her name against his lips, the warmth of her palms on his grease-scarred knuckles. For one weak moment he almost turned the key, almost drove away and chose goodness. Then a gust slammed the umbrella backward, groceries spilled, cans clattering. Lulu rushed out to help, and Naomi laughed breathlessly, gathering peaches off wet pavement. Elijah saw it, the fragile picture of a family he might share if only he fixed the mess of his life. And he heard Jerome's voice adding zeros to that dream. The decision hardened inside him like quick, dry resin. That night, long after the neighborhood folded into sleep, Elijah killed the garage lights and rolled his tool chest to the truck bed. The lockpicks gleamed beneath the dome lamp. He checked his phone. One new text from Naomi. "You okay? Didn't see you at church cleanup." He typed, "I'm good, just tired. Miss you." Then he deleted the message, scared of how much he meant it. Black clouds drifted across the quarter moon as he eased onto the road toward Larkspur Lane. Each lamppost he passed seemed to flicker disapproval, yet none stopped him. At Naomi's curb he cut the engine, heart knocking so loud he feared it would wake the town. Crickets hushed. Jasmine carried a warning scent through his open window, sweet at first inhale, bitter at the back of the throat. He crept across the yard, rain-soft grass swallowing his footsteps. Inside, a lamp glowed faintly. He saw Naomi asleep on the pull-out, arm draped over Lulu. The lunchbox was not in sight, but he knew kitchens, knew cupboards that sagged. He slipped the lockpicks into the doorframe. The knob turned without protest. As he crossed the threshold, a floorboard let out a sorrowful moan, like wood remembering every hymn ever sung in that house. Elijah froze, breath suspended, sweat trickling down his spine. In the silence, he almost convinced himself to retreat, to close the door, drive back, confess everything, beg Naomi and maybe God to forgive him. Then a single word echoed from the hallway, whispered in a child's voice but heavy as judgment: liar. The lamp flickered, shadows surged, Elijah's courage cracked, yet greed pushed him forward, one shaky step at a time, toward the cupboard that hid either salvation or damnation, while outside, thunder rolled like distant drums, preparing a funeral march none of them had yet imagined. Chapter 4. The stone is missing. Dawn bled slowly into Naomi's kitchen, painting the faded linoleum with peach and gold. Coffee hissed in the percolator while she braided Lulu's hair at the table, humming Al Green under her breath. Nightmares had chased them both until nearly sunrise, but the warmth of morning felt like forgiveness. Naomi reached for the rusted lunchbox at the edge of the counter, ready to hide it deeper before her shift at the diner. Her fingers met empty air. She blinked, checked the other side of the stove, then every cabinet knob, as if the box might sprout legs. Anxiety pricked her scalp. She crouched, pulled pots from the lower shelves, her breath quickening. Lulu watched with round, quiet eyes. "Naomi?" The child's voice trembled. "It's gone, isn't it?" Naomi forced a smile that fooled neither of them. She whispered, "Maybe I moved it half asleep." Heart pounding, she hurried to the living room. Sofa cushions flew, quilts tumbled. The scent of lavender detergent rose like mockery. No metal, no stone, no note. Cold realization slid across her skin: Elijah. She grabbed her phone and punched his number. 3 rings, voicemail. She tried again, then tossed the phone aside when it rang out. A wail built inside her chest, but she swallowed it. Panic would frighten Lulu more. She knelt, taking the girl's hands. "Did you hear anything last night?" Lulu shook her head, then hesitated. "A door, maybe a whisper. I thought it was your dream." Naomi kissed her forehead. "Stay here, I'll be right back." She hurried to the porch, locking Lulu inside, and sprinted down Larkspur Lane. The air smelled of damp earth and magnolia. Somewhere a lawn sprinkler ticked like a slow clock, counting her mistakes. She reached the garage lot to find the bay doors half open, fluorescent lights buzzing. Inside, Elijah paced, hair unkempt, grease on his shirt like bruises. When he saw her, guilt flashed so sharp it hurt to witness. "Where is it?" Her voice cracked, raw as gravel. He lifted trembling hands, palms empty. "Nye, I swear I meant to bring it back after I had it appraised. I just needed to know." Needed to know what? How much my trust is worth. She stepped closer. The smell of bourbon still clung to him, mixed with ozone like an approaching storm. "You took it while we slept." Elijah's face twisted, half plea, half self-loathing. "I never wanted to hurt you, but those banks, they're choking me, girl. 30 grand could fix everything." Naomi's eyes burned. "You think money makes you whole? It hollows you out, Eli. Look at you." He backed toward his office, as if the walls might shield him from her judgment. "A buyer in Jackson saw it," he whispered, but Naomi, while he held it... The shop lights surged, then died. Darkness swallowed them, broken by a single flicker from Elijah's office doorframe. A faint red glow, pulsing like an ember. Naomi's breath caught. The hair on her arms rose. Elijah swallowed hard. It cracked in his hand, nigh. Started bleeding light. He screamed it felt alive. When he dropped it, it went dark, dead coal, then it vanished, just wasn't there. Thunder growled beyond the roof. Naomi's mind reeled. The warning on the note, the promise of 7 days, the threat of broken faith. She thought of Lulu's prophecy that the stone missed its true owner. Maybe ownership had never been human at all. Elijah sank to his knees among oil stains and socket wrenches. Jerome kicked me out, said the rock cursed his shop. He wants his advance back, money I already spent covering bills. He looked up, tears shining. I messed up again, didn't I? Naomi knelt, conflicting tides crashing inside her, love frayed by betrayal, pity fighting with rage. She touched his shoulder. His skin burned with feverish guilt. I begged you to trust me, she whispered. Now, I don't know how to pick up the pieces. He covered her hand with trembling fingers. Let me make it right. How? The stone's gone and something bigger than us is moving. Wind battered the bay door, slamming metal like a warning gong. Elijah flinched. Naomi stood, suddenly cold. If the stone chose you to test, it found you wanting. I have to protect that child. She turned toward the exit. Elijah's voice cracked behind her. I still love you, Naomi, even when I fail. She paused, aching, but did not look back. Then learn how to love yourself enough to change. She stepped into the parking lot. Rain began, sharp and urgent, needling her skin. She ran, heart hammering, praying Lulu was safe. When she reached her porch, she stopped dead. The front door, which she had locked, stood ajar. Cool air seeped out like a sigh. Inside, lights flickered. Naomi rushed through, calling Lulu's name, once, twice, the desperation thickening. No answer. On the kitchen table lay the cracked stone, dark and silent, beside a single lily plucked from the yard. Under it, a new scrap of paper read, Failure counts twice, but mercy waits once more. Bring the child to the place where the river splits. Sundown, come alone. Naomi's knees buckled, but fury steadied her. She slipped the stone into her pocket, grabbed the keys, and whispered through clenched teeth, I am not losing anyone else. Outside, the storm deepened, clouds swirling like wings above Willow Shade, as destiny bent toward its next cruel test. Chapter 5. Madness in Willow Shade. Rain clawed at windshields and storefront awnings, while Willow Shade staggered through an afternoon of sirens and rumor. Folks swore they saw Elijah Carter stumbling barefoot down Main, shirt flapping like a broken sail, shouting that the clouds were full of eyes. Children hid behind barbershop chairs. Old men crossed themselves, though they hadn't prayed since Vietnam. The storm made every streetlight strobe, turning the mechanic's wild silhouette into a flickering warning no one understood. Naomi steered her sedan through flooded gutters, wipers whipping, cracked stone heavy in her pocket. Lulu was gone. The ransom note burned into Naomi's mind. Bring the child to the place where the river splits. Sundown, come alone. She had no child to bring, no time, and a town unraveling around her. At the corner of Beale and King, she found Elijah spinning in the rain, arms raised like a street corner preacher. Oil streaked his cheeks. His eyes looked fever bright, pupils shrinking against some invisible glare. He laughed, then sobbed, then whispered to sky and asphalt alike. Cars slowed, then swerved away. Naomi jumped out, rain soaking her braids. Eli, she shouted above thunder. Where's Lulu? He jerked at her voice, grabbed her shoulders with desperate strength. The stone is talking, Nye. Says fire walks on water. Says the debt comes due. He blinked, recognition surfacing for one trembling heartbeat. I gave her up. Who? Naomi's nails dug into his wrists. Gave who to what? The man in the coat, the same one the girl spoke of. Elijah's gaze skittered toward the courthouse clock tower looming dark against boiling clouds. He said, "Only innocence can unlock the river's mouth. I thought if I handed Lulu over he'd erase everything I owe." Naomi's stomach turned to ice. "You traded her." The words tasted like ash. Elijah released her, stumbling back as if her horror scorched him. "But listen, I changed my mind. I followed them toward the levee, but the road bent and kept bending. Houses stood where cotton fields should be. Voices called from inside puddles. I got lost in places that aren't on any map." He clawed at his hair. "The town's turning inside out, Naomi. It's the stone, what's left of it." Lightning cracked so near the air smelled singed. Naomi grabbed Elijah's hand. "Show me where the world twisted," she ordered. "Now." They drove south, rain easing to a mist that glowed golden in late daylight. The storm's eye moved east, leaving cypress branches dripping like chandeliers over the levee road. As they approached the Yazoo Split, the place locals called Twin Mouths, Naomi felt the cracked stone pulse against her thigh, each beat tugging her deeper into dread. The river forked around a sandbar littered with driftwood and rusted bicycle frames. On that barren island stood a solitary figure in a charcoal coat, brim of his hat tilted, holding Lulu by the hand. The child's white dress fluttered like a trapped moth. She looked unharmed, yet distant, as though her heartbeat kept time with another world. Naomi left the headlights on, beam cutting through gauze of fog. "Stay in the car," she warned Elijah, then stepped into ankle-deep mud. Every footfall seemed to echo inside her bones. The air smelled of iron and magnolia rot. Halfway across the rickety plank bridge, the man spoke, voice low, rich as cello strings. "Even shattered, the stone obeys order, promise, break, suffer. You broke twice, Naomi Washington." She drew the black fragments from her pocket. They glimmered red in his presence. "Take them," she said, throat tight. "Give me the girl." His chuckle drifted over water. "The girl belongs to whoever proves faithful. Do you trust a heart that bartered her for coins of fear?" He nodded toward Elijah, visible in the windshield glow, hands pressed to the glass like a prisoner begging reprieve. Naomi's pulse thundered. Love and fury waged war inside her, but the memory of every kindness she'd ever chosen rose like a choir. She knelt, placed the fractured stone on the weather-eaten boards and slid it forward. "I will pay," she declared, voice shaking but clear. "Take the stone, take my future, but let her go." For a moment, nothing moved. River, clouds, even the cicadas held their breath. Then Lulu pulled free of the man's grasp and ran to Naomi, burying her face in the folds of Naomi's soaked blouse. The fragments flared once, brilliant crimson, then dissolved into ash that scattered on the wind. The man tipped his hat. In the blink between two heartbeats he vanished, coat fluttering into emptiness. A hush fell, thick and unreal. The levee seemed to exhale. Behind her, Elijah staggered onto the bridge, tears mixing with rain. "Nye, I'm sorry." Naomi rose, holding Lulu close, eyes rimmed with exhausted fire. "Sorry isn't a cure," she said, voice soft but unbreakable. "Redemption starts where apologies end. You want forgiveness? Walk the path back alone." She turned toward shore, child in her arms, twilight bleeding violet across the split river. Behind them, Elijah sank to his knees, water lapping at his shins as the first whip poor will called, echoing mournful over a town still trembling from the touch of something older than mercy and sharper than judgment. Chapter 6. The Spirit Under the Tree. Moonlight glazed Willow Shade in silver quiet, yet Naomi felt no peace as she guided Lulu across the back lot of New Olive Baptist. The storm had passed, leaving the air washed and sharp. Wet grass clung to their ankles while katydids stitched the night with restless song. At the far corner of the yard stood the ancient pecan, whose roots coiled like buried rivers. Generations had carved initials into its bark, seeking luck in love or mercy in war, but tonight the tree pulsed with a presence deeper than memory. Lulu's small hand tightened around Naomi's fingers. "He's waiting," the girl whispered. Beneath the branches, a figure appeared. A woman wrapped in a robe the color of dusted cocoa, shoulders straight, eyes holding dawn inside midnight. Naomi recognized her at once, though they had never met. The elder, whose face filled local folktales, the spirit keeper people called Aunt Mercy. Stories said she walked the town on nights when promises broke and souls frayed. Naomi's heart pounded. "I brought the child back safe," she said, voice trembling but steady. "The stone is gone. What more do you ask of me?" Aunt Mercy studied Naomi with gaze that weighed both wounds and wonders. "You bore another's test and did not bend," she murmured, her words rustling like wind through leaves. "Yet a chain still drags. Forgive, and the chain will fall." Naomi bristled, thinking of betrayal, of Elijah on the bridge with mud on his knees. Forgiveness feels like letting the wolf back inside the fence. "Forgiveness is unlocking your own gate," Aunt Mercy replied. "The wolf must learn its lesson on the open road, but your heart deserves sunlight." Lulu stepped forward, eyes luminous. "Naomi saved me. Can you save Elijah?" The spirit's gaze softened. "Redemption is a door only the sinner can turn." She touched the tree trunk. Sap glimmered gold beneath her fingers. But love may hand him the key. Footsteps crunched over gravel. Elijah emerged from shadow, face washed clean by tears and river water, carrying a bouquet of wild irises bruised by rain. He stopped at the edge of the clearing, shame riding his shoulders. "I came to return what I never owned," he said, voice raw. "Trust, hope. Your tomorrow, Naomi. I can't give back the stone, but I can give you truth." He laid the limp flowers at her feet like penance. "If you send me away, I'll walk until I learn to stand upright." Silence thickened, broken only by the distant hiss of tires on wet asphalt. Naomi felt resentment rise like a tide, but Aunt Mercy's earlier words echoed, "Your heart deserves sunlight." She remembered laughing with Elijah beneath fireflies, the warmth that crackled before greed cooled it. Maybe love was not a safe harbor but a forge. She lifted the flowers. "I will not walk the bridge of my life weighted by anger," she said softly. "I forgive you, Elijah, not because you earned it, but because I refuse to carry your sin on my back." He sagged with relief, tears mixing with night air. Aunt Mercy nodded once, then pressed her palm against the trunk. A low hum rippled through the ground. Leaves above flickered with unseen light. Where sap had glowed, a seam opened, revealing the river stone whole again, edges smooth, heartbeat quiet. "For faith kept and faith repaired," the spirit murmured, placing the stone in Lulu's hands. "Guard it 7 years this time, then choose a new bearer whose kindness runs without knowing." Lulu cradled the stone as if it were a sleeping bird. Naomi knelt, brushing the girl's cheek. "When the time comes, you'll know who needs it." Aunt Mercy's form began to blur, folding into moonlit mist. "Remember," her voice drifted, "miracles are sown from choices, not wishes." Then she was gone. Only the tree remained, its bark sealing like healed skin, as if no door had ever opened. Crickets resumed their hymn. Elijah took a cautious step forward. "Can we start again?" Naomi turned, tired but lighter. "Starts aren't given, they're built. Come morning, Meet me at the diner before dawn. We'll scrub pots side by side and see what rises with the biscuits." A shaky smile broke across his face. He offered his hand. She squeezed it once, firm and clear, then released. Together they guided Lulu down the grassy slope, the town spreading before them in quiet glow. Pecan branches swayed overhead, scattering dew like little blessings. Somewhere, a choir rehearsal drifted from an open window, 3 voices finding harmony in the dark. Naomi breathed in the scent of wet earth and iris petals, felt her heart unlock, and stepped onto the path toward a dawn she finally believed might hold light enough for them all.